I am going to be releasing my testimony. I'm mainly doing this because right now I need a little bit of help. And I am reaching out to my brothers and sisters in Christ to see if you're willing. So, there's a lot to share here. This video might be in parts. I'm actually working as well. I'm doing a little bit of DoorDash today. So the video might get interrupted by the duty that calls, right? But I'm gonna start with this. I am a survivor of what my brothers and sisters in the YouTube space have been calling NPD, which is narcissistic personality disorder. He hasn't been like clinically diagnosed or anything, but according to the videos of people who are self-proclaimed or have been diagnosed, and most people who have survived it, let's just say he fit the description. Okay. But anyway, I'm going to share this story. It's probably going to be several parts to this story, mostly because there's so much. I've endured so much. And I'm at a point right now where the Lord had placed it on my heart to relocate to another state. And the transition just hasn't been as easy as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be smooth sailing. I think that's one of the things when you're a child of God and you honor God and you give your life to God and praise God and worship and do all the things, we expect everything to be easy, which I'm not going to lie. The few little hiccups that I dealt with in the beginning of my transition, it's like I'm used to things kind of being a struggle. So it was like things come and I just throw it to the side. Another hurdle come, throw it to the side. I shed my tears, give my prayers and everything. And even with this struggle that I'm going to be diving deeper into, the Lord has sustained me and He's been providing along the way, through all means, which I will get further into detail as the story unfolds. But I've been working every day for the last 30 days with no days off because of my predicament, because of my situation. It was placed on my heart to relocate to another state, which I did. I have housing. I did what is called a portability. So, like I said, I've been working for pretty much 30 days, nonstop. So the whole ordeal. So in order to do a portability with the housing that I had to terminate the current place that I was living in order for the paperwork to be transferred and everything. This happened in like November. So, October. Because I had to give my landlord a 30-day notice, which is a whole nother story. I'm probably gonna get into sometime in the future. But the housing thing terminated on the 30th of November, so I was to vacate by no later than 30th. Although they did let me stay a few days later because I did need like a little bit more time. But prior to coming to the state that I'm currently in, a lot of the apartment complexes that I applied for or was applying for or trying to apply for online, they required that I show up in person to fill out the application and to give them my relocation packet, which is called a RAFTA. And so, okay, I had the briefing online. They sent me my RAFTA packet online. They did it. Everything was done online as far as transferring my housing. So okay, that was all said and done. I had literally just enough money for the apartment that I had looked at, the down payment that they required. I had enough to make it across country to travel through the states where I was moving to. And a little bit of money to like feed my kids along the way, and just in case there was some hiccups in between, I thought I had enough funds to cover everything. But I made it here, and I also reached out to a couple of shelters for just in case I encountered some hiccups and needed like more time or whatever. So I reached out to a couple of shelters. One shelter was like they do a first come first serve basis, and just how the whole process go or whatever. They told me come early in the morning. They told me the hours of operation and all the things. And so I made it all the way here to the state that I'm currently in. I made it to the shelter, and they were like, we don't have any more family, pretty much shelter placement available. They gave me what is called a help card. My last delivery was about 30 minutes out of my zone, so I got a little bit more time before I get back. So I'm gonna try to finish as much as I can before I get back to the zone and get another order. And it's almost time to pick my daughter up from school too. So, but anyway, so I made it to the shelter. They didn't have any more family size units available or family size spaces available, because this specific shelter had like, I guess, dedicated units for people who are by themselves as a single, and then they have rooms for people that are a family. And I must admit, this was a really nice looking shelter. It was such a nice looking shelter. It did not look like a shelter. It looked like a hotel or an apartment building or something like that. It was really, really nice. Anyway, they told me I could come back the next day. They told me to, they gave me up to 30 days. They did like the intake process or whatever, but they also gave me, like I said, a help card. The help card was a sheet of paper that had a list of other emergency shelters for, I guess, just in case you need someone to stay for an emergency, right? So at first it was almost promising, because when I first got there, the lady was just like, hey, come again tomorrow, we may have a place available or whatever. So I told the lady, I said, well, I just drove all the way here from Michigan, and it was a very long ride. And I told her, like, if you guys don't mind, I don't mind, pretty much sleeping in a parking lot and pretty much just being one of the first ones to be here in the morning. The lady was like, that's your discretion. She was like, but anyway, just to make a longer story short, so I ended up going the next morning. Again, it was rejected. And so, okay, at this point, case closed there, right? So at this point, I start kind of, I don't want to say panicking, but really trying to see what my other options were. So one of my main reasons for choosing the city that I chose to relocate to was a specific church. It was a church that I sometimes watch online. And when I thought about moving to this state, I realized that their church was here. And so I was like, oh, well, you know what? I'm looking for a new church home anyway. So how about if I could, become a member there, or just see how things go or whatever, right? So in the midst of all of this, going to the shelter and everything, I went to that church. So when I went to the church, the gates were open, at least to the parking lot, but the inside doors wasn't open. I believe it was a weekday. It was like early morning. The woman who came to greet me, she pretty much let me know, like, we kind of only open for vendors right now. And she told me to give them a call. So she gave me a business card. And she pretty much said, she was like, give me a call. She said, call the number and, we'll go from there. Okay. So I call, even though I just left the place, just spoke to the lady, no answer. So I leave a voicemail because that was the next prompt. So I left a voicemail, and I didn't receive a call back until maybe like 2-3 days later. And she also provided me with a list of shelters, which were a lot of the same numbers that was on the first help card that I got from the first shelter. It was a lot of those numbers on there, and it was additional numbers like financial assistance program and food pantries and stuff like that. And so, everything that I seen on the list that I felt like fit my circumstance or situation or whatever, I gave a call. A lot of the places that I called, no one answered the phone, so I left messages. And here's my thing, my situation, right? With me having the housing and doing the portability, they gave me up to the end of January, the 29th of January to be exact, to find a place to go, with an extension of 1 month, according to housing. So my housing in Michigan gave me up to January the 29th to find a place. And then the state that I moved to, the city that I transferred my housing to, they gave me a one month extension. They say your housing gave you this in Michigan, we're giving you this till February 29th. Okay, so the whole thing is, if I don't find a place by that very last day, February 29th, I lose my housing completely, right? So at this point, it became like crunch time. Like, not that I was being picky in the first place, but I really couldn't be picky about like where I was gonna go and all the things as far as like my apartment choice. Now, like I was saying, I only needed shelter placement for maybe 2 months, and that was a lot of the messages that I led with. Every shelter that I called said, hey, I have housing, I told them the whole spiel, like I just told you guys. I did a portability, I've been poured in, I just need 60 days to find an apartment. Pretty much it's myself and my 2 daughters. I just need a place temporarily for maybe a maximum of 2 months, until all the paperwork get processed and stuff like that. No one called me back. And one lady, when I was at the first place that did the intake, even though they rejected me or they didn't have any room, there was one lady there, and she kind of was like, you should try this specific place. She was like, I stayed there temporarily before or whatever. And so I reached out to them. She gave me their info. I reached out to them, and they asked me, they was like, are you working? And I told them, I was like, well, I just got in town. I haven't even been here more than a week yet. I really haven't even had a chance to really like show any proof of income or anything. But I let them know, I was like, I do work for Walmart Spark, and I do DoorDash. And the person who I spoke to was like, okay, well, in order for you to stay in the shelter, you need to be working, because we don't want you to fully rely on us. We don't want you to fully depend on us, is what she said, or he. And I thought, I only need like 2 months. Like, I already have housing. My paperwork is already transferred. I just need a place to stay so I can go and put the money down on the apartment that I was looking at. So in order for me to work or to do the apps like I've been doing, you have to have car insurance. And so my apartment search became a little different, because because the deposit, me having to dip into the deposit money, pretty much kind of affected how much I had for the deposit. So this being said, drove around for a few days, called a few different places, kind of really didn't have anywhere to go, and so I ended up calling a relative of mine. Do I want to share? So I have a so this relative of mine live in this state, right? But before I get too far into that, me and this relative, we kind of haven't spoken since our father died. Our father died maybe three years ago, almost 4 maybe. And we at first, after my dad died, we had spoke, but there were kind of some uncomfortable secrets my father had that came out, and I was the one left to anyways, I got told my dad's last secret before he died, and I shared it with my siblings, and it caused a rift between us, right? I'll say it like that. And so what ended up happening was sibling had went almost 3 years not speaking to each other. Now, just to add to that, I'll just say my brother. Anyway, so me and my brother, to me, I feel like we were always pretty close. And prior to all of this, he had reached out to me maybe a month before, maybe a month or two before I decided to come here. Now, I knew my brother lived here, but my intentions were to escape my reality, I guess. It's just that, like, the cards that I've been dealt in this life and the things that I've learned reading God's word, I just needed a fresh start. And I didn't want to bring any past weight, situations, individuals, relationships. I didn't want to bring anything from my past with me. But I realized that in the midst of all of this, there was still some unresolved issues or doors that may have needed to be closed. And so, just to make a longer story short, I reached out to my brother, and I pretty much led our conversation with, hey, I told him, I said, this is taking me a lot of humility to even make this call, because when my brother did call me, I pretty much told him, I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to pick up where we left off. Now, I was willing to have a conversation here and there, because even when we did talk, I caught him up on a lot of the stuff that had happened in my life over the past 3-4 years that we hadn't spoke. But it was when he called me the next day. I wasn't ready to start talking every day. I had been through 3 years of chaos, which is also a major part of this whole story that I'm going through. Like, the whole fact of me reaching out for help and everything, I'll dive deeper into telling that story. But this is the main story first, right? Like the reason why I'm even calling and seeking help outside of what is supposed to be my family, right? Which that's one of the reasons why I'm running. My family is not family to me. My family are just people. They're just people, just like everybody else. Everything that I expected or that I thought I was supposed to receive from people who are called my family, no matter what title it is, think of a title, and that's it. I didn't receive it. I didn't receive sisterly love. I didn't receive... And there were moments where I guess I did, but all in all, like when life got hard and things hit the fan, everybody gave me their backs, right? Anyway, so I reached out to my brother, and I'll just let him know that, first of all, this takes me a lot of humility, but because of the fact that I have my 2 daughters with me, I kind of have no other option right now. And so I let him know. I said, hey, I'm pretty much here in the state that you're in, and I'm like, I'm kind of in a situation, and maybe this will be our chance to talk face to face. If you're willing, if you're even okay with me coming to your house or whatever. So he was like, why wouldn't I be? Okay, send me the address. His address is about 5.5 hours away from my original destination, right? So I pull up. Anyway, so I make it to his house, and I'm a little excited because, even though I wasn't ready to talk then, and I understand maybe he's upset, or maybe he, maybe giving me a little bit of a cold shoulder because I wasn't ready to talk, and now I'm in a situation where I need help, and now I'm ready to talk. I understand how this goes, right? And so, anyway, we kind of are catching up a little bit. He finally meets my youngest daughter because he hasn't met her. She's 4. And he let me know up front. He was like, we ain't about to act fake. We ain't about to act funny. He was like, if you wasn't having a hard time right now, you wouldn't have called me. I wouldn't even know you was here, which is all true, right? And so my whole thing is, I'm like, well, still, you need to understand that I've been through a lot, these last 3-4 years. And I'm like, when I was going through, I had nobody I could reach out to. Now, let me also say this. What my brother didn't know was right around the time when my father died, I overheard my brother on 2 different occasions speaking about me in a way that was not in likeness. And then the whole my father's family secret came out, and I didn't only get disdain from my brother, who we were really close. I got even more disdain from, we have a mutual sister, but we all have the same dad. And the family, the one who was in the middle of the family secret, I had just met him, and I was trying to be in contact by way of social media, and I was getting disdain from him as well, or what appeared like to me, right? And so, I put 2 + 1 together, right? I put 2 and 3 together. And I was like, okay, apparently I must have offended them, or something has happened where all 3 of them as a collective are, like my sister, right, on my father's side, she always stayed distant anyways, even though we had moments that we shared together, we got to know each other a little bit, but it was always evident that my brother was more willing and receptive to learn about the other siblings, because it's not just me, and it's not just them 2 either. It's not just us 3. We got other siblings, 2 other women in the middle of all this, right? And maybe like 4 other siblings between them. Anyway, it just took a lot of humility. So one of the things that did happen in the midst of this time was some truth got revealed. The first couple of days I was at my brother's house, I was treated with what felt like hatred. Because I understand that he called himself being upset because I wasn't ready to speak when he called me. And, you know, if it wasn't for the situation that I was in, that we really wouldn't be in communication. I understood that, right? But even in moments where I tried to be vulnerable and speak up and shed light on what was going on and why some of the distance, you know, was there, it just overall, I didn't feel welcome for real, you know. And so I was like, all right, my thing is, and there was no lack of communication about how either one of us felt about my stay there. He was like, I ain't gonna be funny. He was like, yeah, you here. He was like, you know, because you need somewhere and you got my nieces, he was like, I'm gonna let you stay here. He was like, but pretty much like that's it, right? which is cool by all means, because if it wasn't for the situation that I was in, I wouldn't be here, right? And so, but one of the things my brother didn't know was he didn't know I heard what I heard. And so I was finally able to speak my piece on why I haven't called back, because the very last conversation my brother and I had, we were talking, and he and I used to share so much back and forth that we used to talk about all our problems and drama and whatever else was going on. And I think I was in a conversation, I was in one of those moments where I was sharing with him what was going on, and he decided to just start another conversation somewhere, and I hung up. Normally that don't bother me to the point where I would stop talking to someone for 3 years. But it was because of the fact that I had already overheard some of the things that he had said, and I never wanted to address it because I try not to be confrontational. Plus, another thing is, before my brother was diagnosed with bipolar, he used to live with me, and I dealt with him before he knew he had this condition. So I was already used to how my brother, like, I was already used to how he pop off. I was already used to how if you try to bring something to him with your concerns or your feelings, I was already used to him like gaslighting and stuff like that. Now, mind you, these are words or language that I didn't have back then when I was going through all of this stuff. Like, it was just pop off. He did this, he did that. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. But over time, so many people sharing their stories and stuff like that, and just growing in maturity and wisdom and all of that, I now have language to express all of this. So a lot of the reason why I didn't say anything before is because my whole thing is, I got to a point where I know what I hear, and I know what I know, and I know how I feel. And what I'm not about to do is allow people to make me feel like, or I'm either dramatic or I'm sensitive because of whatever the case may be, right? And a lot of times my family did that, especially my siblings. Now, anyway, so we pretty much talked about that. Now, and before we had the conversation, because literally, it really took, my brother was treating me with such disdain that's what forced me to say something about what I saw. Because even then, I didn't want to say anything because, first, I don't want to argue. I don't want to fight. Me and my brother got into a fist fight before. Police got caught and everything. This is when I was living in Boston. He was living with me. And I just didn't want to go through it. But the way he was treating me, it was almost as if I had did something so bad to him that I was worth his hatred, because it felt like hatred to me. And so I said, you know what? And I know how my brother is. I know that if I would have tried to have this conversation, he would have turned it all, oh, you, this is what you think you thought, da, da, da. I just know how my brother is. And so luckily my cousin on my father's side lives with him, and she was there. And so a few days before I left, I said, I want to have a conversation with my brother. I said, but I want you to be here because I need a witness. Because my whole thing is, I just know how it goes, right? People tell half-truths, inverted truths, whatever the case may be. And that was the whole reason of me not having the conversation in the first place. Because I wanted to have a witness present. And it's not easy trying to have a conversation like this with my brother if it's just him. Because all he's going to do is just combat what I say. And then expect me to just get over it because we're siblings. And that was one of the reasons why within the 3 years that he never called me back, I didn't call him back. We both just didn't call each other back in over the 3 years. Now mind you, like I said, he don't know that I heard him talking about me to his friends and other sources. But anyway, I said all this because I stayed at my brother's house for maybe a week. I managed to work. I do Walmart Spark. I was able to make anywhere from $100 to $150 a day. And that's with putting in hours, okay? I be out there 6 o'clock in the morning, but now since my kids are in school, I start at 7. And I'm working, I pick my daughter up from school and still do like an extra couple hours. Anyway, so, and in the midst of all this, there's so many different brackets to this because so I reached out to my daughter's father. I kind of let him know, like, because he usually come visit my daughter for her birthday, and her birthday is the day after Christmas. But we were already out of there because, mind you, with me doing the portability, my last day at the place that I was at was November 30th. So by the time Christmas came, we were already in the new state, right? And my daughter's father usually come to visit her. So I had to call and let him know we're not going to be there. We're in another state. And anyway, I let him know I was having like some financial issues or whatever. And I don't ever really ask him for much. We've been pretty much, I've fled, okay? I fled the state that I was living in, and I have been gone for 4 years. My daughter's 4. I left when my daughter was like 1 month, if that. She might have been a couple days. And I'll get into that story deeper because, like I said, the overall story revolves from that which happened there. All this me going through right now. So I called my daughter's father, and out of the 4 years that I have been back home in Michigan, I've never asked him for anything. I didn't need anything. I was getting food stamps. I work. I was doing Uber and Lyft, and I was doing an occasional Walmart Spark, but I predominantly do Uber and Lyft. I had created a schedule where I was able to make it varies, right, depending on how often I go out to work, but I was able to make $1,000 a week, or really close to it, right? And someone hit my car and totaled my car. But this was after like a whole year. I said all this because I am pretty self-sufficient. Like, I know how to cover the things that I have, right? Anyway, so because someone hit my car and totaling my car, it pretty much slowed my work down. And the only thing I had available to me was Walmart Spark because with Uber, your car got to be newer. Because of the money I had saved up, I was saving up money for some future business plans, and the car accident ended up causing me to have to spend my money on something else. But I'll finish the rest later. Okay, so y'all gotta excuse my car, rusty, okay? I got a 2008 Saturn View, something, however it go. And even with that, right? The money I had to spend money on this car. This car was, I've been to several mechanics who was like, you need to get that back, okay? They was like, I had one dude was like, I'm not doing service on this car here because you shouldn't be driving it. But by the grace of God, he been keeping it together, right? Anyway, speaking of the grace of God and keeping it together, so my kid's father sent me enough money to book my first week in a hotel. So I booked my first week in a hotel, grabbed my daughters, we grabbed some stuff. Now, mind you, I wasn't going to get storage at first because I assumed that everything was going to happen pretty quickly. Like, I knew I was going to have to wait the 30 days or whatever for the paperwork to process. But I also thought that was just housing's way of like covering the space so that I wouldn't become impatient, right? I didn't know that, like, just like I just found out just recently, picking my little girl up from school, at least one of the two, right? So now I don't want to end things off with my stay with my brother as if like I just fled out of there because it was just so negative and rough, right? Because before I left, we both kind of had a moment where we recognized that there was just like some, I don't want to say miscommunication, but there was definitely like, I guess both of us kind of, let's just say we end things in a peaceful manner. Like, he did say that if I need, he felt like I would need more time as far as like with my girls. This was like during Christmas vacay as well. So even though we were in the middle of transition and I needed to get my girls in school, their absences wouldn't have tallied up because school was already out for both the state that we're in and the state that we're coming from, right? Because of the holiday. So my brother did offer, he was like, you might need a couple extra weeks. He was like, you can still stay here, because he pretty much was like, you're not gonna have any help with the girls, really. Like, you're gonna be there by yourself, right? But with all things, right, my main concern was hurrying up and finding a place because I need to get the girls in school, because I don't want the girls out of school for too long, right? So, he did offer me to be able to stay a little longer. But because of my situation that I'm in, I don't have time really to waste. So what I did was I reached out to apartment community, and one of the things I always lead with when I call apartment complexes is I always ask them, do they accept tenants with housing vouchers? Because I've been to plenty of places, did walkthroughs and everything, just to find out that they don't accept housing. So all the things, I did all the things. So I found one place. I called the lady. She said they accept tenants with housing vouchers. She asked me how much did my housing cover for the bedroom size that I have. I told her what that was, and she was like, oh, we actually had 3 bedrooms that's pretty much under what your housing pay for too. So she was like, you can apply for 2 if you want. I mean, a 3 if you want. that made me a little excited, and it was promising because I felt like this. I felt like, oh, okay, it's not the fact that I qualified for a 3, but to me, it just gave me all hope. Like, okay, this lady knows that I have housing. She's pretty much offering me a 3 with how much a 2-bedroom cover. So, okay, so I filled out the application. Now, with that, what I did was I had started looking for schools in that area because to me, it was locked in. It was a guarantee, right? So, I started looking for schools. I pretty much let them know I was waiting for my, the apartment that I had applied for. I was waiting for my paperwork and everything to be processed. So I got my daughter in school, my 9 who just turned 10-year-old. I got her in school. The other hiccup that I had to deal with here is in Michigan where I was, as long as my youngest one was 4 before, I think it's September 31st or October 1st or something like that, she was able to start pre-K. So when it came to her, I didn't have to pay. I wasn't paying. But here where we are, my 4-year-old has to be 4 before September 1st. And so with that, she's not allowed to go to pre-K. So now I was like, oh man, like that's not something that I kind of was expected to have to either deal with or take care of or whatever. And so I figured, all right, well, so far when I was staying around with my brother, I was able to make 130 to 150 a day. And so I figured, okay, I can make this work. So I called around. Now I'm calling around. I have to find daycare that would keep my youngest one so I can go out and make money, because I can't drive around doing DoorDash and Walmart with her all day. I tried once before in life and it didn't work. Anyway, so I called around, found a daycare that was literally within minutes of my daughter's school, which is literally within minutes of the apartment complex that I had applied for. So one of the things that the apartment complex, so anyway, I applied for the apartment complex. The lady told me, she was like, yeah, we accept housing, all the things. She said, just go online. She said it costs $23 for the application. Just go online, and then once you fill out that, she said, then we'll move forward with like processing your paperwork and everything. So I did all that. So I filled out the paperwork. I went to my daughter's school using that address at the place that I was at, even using the unit number that I had applied for and everything. And literally I hadn't received a phone call in like 2 days. And so I was wondering, like, okay, the lady told me once I go on the application that it takes up to like 24 hours. So I knew to at least expect a day, right? So then I was being patient. I was like, okay, 2 days went by. I was like, well, let me just call. So I think I called, and the lady was like, oh, give me a second. But she kind of was whispering. She was like, oh, give me a second. She was like, we're still processing your application. And she was like, we should have a response for you by the end of today. And then literally within like an hour or two after I get off the phone with her, I received a denial letter. And the denial letter says that the reason for the denial was because of my income report or something like that. I want to say, I don't think it was credit. I think it was income. And so I told her, I said, I had already mentioned to you that I had just started back work. So I don't have any like 3 weeks, 4 weeks worth of income that I could show you. I said, but I did have at least 2 weeks, and I showed her that I was at least making like $600 a week. And she was like, well, because of your housing size and whatever else. She said, well, give me a second. No, she didn't. She said, give me a second. She said, let me talk to my manager and see if we could use your W-2s from last year as proof of income. So now I'm still like, okay, hopes up. All right, good. Because even though my income that I sent over, if that's not enough, okay. So then she gives me a call back. No, actually, I had to go. So I ended up having to get storage because I had been hotel hopping. I had been to several different hotels, and just lugging all of my stuff in and out of my car became exhausting. So I ended up having to pay for storage. So anyway, I went to my storage to go get my W-2s and everything. So I brought it back to her. I said, can I meet you in the office instead of sending it online? I'd rather, like, you know, talk about this in person or whatever. Only because I was a little worried that you already denied me after you made me feel like I was going to be approved. So now I just want to talk face to face. Anyway, so I bring the paperwork, and the lady goes, oh, okay. They take my paperwork. She takes it to her manager, with the manager's office right next to her, right? And then the lady comes out and she says, well, with your W-2s, you're actually overqualified because if this is what you made last year and your family size is 2, she's like, you made like $5,000 over the limit of what we allow your family size with your voucher to have. Now, the bad part about it, which she didn't ask and I didn't even get into, because at this point, I just felt like, at this point, y'all were just finding any reason to deny me. And y'all took my $23. Because she also said, well, one of the reasons why we looked at the income and we denied the income is because even though you have housing, we still require that you make 3 times the rent. If she would have told me that up front, I would have never filled out the application. I would have went somewhere else that would have been more applicable to me, right? Anyway, so now I'm just kind of irritated because not only did I get my hopes up and, you know, thought that I kind of was moving over here. I got my kid in school using this address. I got my baby in daycare using this address. Everything is within minutes of this address, and now I have to find somewhere else to go. And so not only that, I lost my $23. Like, I could have put that towards some, I could have put, and yeah, $23 ain't a whole lot, but it's a lot when you using every single cent that you have to not be outside, to not be a part of the homeless crew, okay? So I'm like, man, so I didn't even argue about the $23. I didn't tell them to give it back, even though I really wanted to. I was just like, skip it. All right, whatever, right? I left out of there teed off. But okay, anyway. So now I have to look more. Now, because of the fact that I already got my daughter in school and my baby in daycare in this area, I started looking for apartments in this area. Every other place that I called, they don't accept housing. I'm like, oh my God, okay. So now I'm at the point where the clock is ticking. Like, days is counting down. I'm staying in hotels. I don't have a for sure place that I'm going to be at now. I thought I had a for sure place, which is the reason why I signed my daughter up for school. Because I would not have if I knew that they were going to deny me. So me and my daughters are hotel hopping. My daughters are still in school. The lady at the school that my daughter's currently at, she said, you have until a specific date to bring me a utility bill, which is like proof that you live at that address. Otherwise, my daughter will have to stop going there after this specific date, right? So now, okay, now my whole thing is, now mind you, this lady told me this before I got denied. Because if I would have got denied, if I would have known that before I got denied, I either would have said something up front or I would have probably tried to. Anyway, it's just a whole lot that I'm dealing with, right? So anyway, I am in the midst of all of this. Now, the lady at my baby's daycare gave me a break because she told me that childcare is like $160 something per week. But because of the fact that I don't have a childcare voucher, she was like, I'll give you a break and it'll be $150. So I want to say it's like $165. So she gave me a break. So I paid $150 a week, cash out of my pocket. Mind you, an expense that I didn't know that I was gonna have to provide for. So now I'm $150 a week on the daycare, and that's only so that I could have peace of mind while being out here driving around all day doing deliveries. And then hotel stays, depending on where I'm going, is costing me anywhere from like $300 to $400 a week. And I don't get food stamps. So I'm paying cash out of pocket for me and my daughters to eat. And we're literally by the skin of my teeth. I mean, I feel like the only thing that I've been able to afford for all of us to eat is Little Caesars hot and ready. A $6 pizza. We've been eating pizza so much, my 4-year-old getting tired of it. I mean, and depending on where we stay, like, there's been a few hotels we stayed at that had stoves and had microwaves and refrigerators. And so whenever we stay at hotels that has those amenities, I've been able to utilize them. So we've been making, like, you know, little things. Not just noodles, even though noodles is on the list. But I've been able to, like, cook, right? But a few rooms we stayed at, I mean, one room we stayed at didn't have a microwave. It had a refrigerator, but the refrigerator wasn't working. And so we just been having to, like, just consume things that we could eat either really quickly or really fresh. Like, we've been eating fruits, avocados, and stuff like that. But I haven't been able to, like, cook for real. I think it was one hotel we stayed at. The hotel we're staying at now has a stove, but I'm trying to stay away from using these people's stoves. But anyway, like I said, I created this video because the apartment complex that did accept me, it's a good 40 minutes away from the initial place that I applied for, right? So again, I'm gonna have to change schools with my daughter, which none of that is really the issue. The issue that I have is when I spoke to the lady at the apartment complex, and I had to ask her all the stuff. I said, do you approve DoorDash and Walmart as income? Because I called one place and they was like, that's not real income. They was like, we can't accept you if you have DoorDash, Walmart as a job. They was like, we need you to have a job that you're tied to. This is the exact words. I said, a job that I'm tied to? He's like, yeah, pretty much saying, like, you can't have a job that you could just choose you don't want to work. Anyway, so it's been a lot, yo guys. It's been a lot to process and figure out and maneuver through, right? So anyway, I found one place. So I told the lady the whole spiel. I told her, I said, because my whole thing is I didn't want to pay another application fee if you don't accept X, Y, and Z. So I said, do you accept DoorDash, Walmart as an income? I said, that's the only income I have. I said, I make about $600 a week. And honestly, I've been making more than that because I've been working Monday through Sunday. And the reason why I've been working so much is because I need money for the baby daycare. I need money to feed me and the kids. I also need money to do our laundry. And I have car insurance. Like, I have so many bills, even though I don't even have an apartment yet. Like, I'm not even paying utilities and rent, and like, I still have so much that I'm responsible for. So for the month that I've been here, I have not had a day off. And what I didn't know, because like I said, the lady at the new place that I found, my application got accepted, approved, everything. First month's paid for. The application fee is paid for. What I didn't expect, because the lady at the office said to me, she said, okay, she said, I turned in your paperwork. She said, everything should be fine. She said, it usually takes up to 2 weeks before they schedule the inspection. And she said, once they schedule the inspection, and once it passed, she said, I'll call you and you'll get your keys. I'm like, okay, another 2 weeks. Okay. It's been a month. Another 2 weeks is cool. I could wait another 2 weeks. I waited this far, right? Even in the midst of all of this that's been going on, I've been reaching out to my kid's father. He's kind of been helping financially. A lot more, which I kind of got on his nerve a little bit. I don't know if I got on his nerve, but maybe he just couldn't, you know, accommodate for all of what I need right now. But I know he pretty much did it, because over the last 4 years, I never really asked for anything. I mean, he supplied my kids with gifts and whatever he can whenever he do so, and I've never complained. I never asked for more. I just always knew that it was my decision to leave, so I assumed responsibility of taking care of them fully, right? Along with having government assistance. Anyway, so it's just been a little bit, I'm just a little, like, I don't know, I don't want to say I'm tired. I've been working a lot, y'all. I'm getting ready to pick my daughter up now. So I just picked up my oldest of the youngest two from school. So I just wanted to create this quick video just to kind of share my testimony, because I did create a GoFundMe, and so right now every little bit of help counts. Like I said, so far I've been able to manage. Like I said, you know, God has given me the ability to be self-sufficient. But it's literally, I had no days off. I mean, I'm not even saying I deserve a day off, but what I am saying is, I assumed that the apartment and the paperwork and everything was going to be available and ready and done within 2 weeks. And so I waited the 2 weeks, and I didn't receive a phone call from the apartment complex that I'm going to be moving to. So I decided to call housing themselves, and they told me that the inspection wouldn't even be scheduled until after the 30 to 40 day process that it takes for them to do the paperwork. They did tell me that if I had some kind of special or some kind of different program that I was a part of, that it could have been expedited, but because of the fact that I'm not part of like some hardship program or some other programs that he told me that was out there, I even asked what could I do to try to like either apply or whatever, but he told me that because of the type of program that I'm already, I guess, under, that it takes 30 to 40 days for them to process the paperwork, and then once they process the paperwork, then they will schedule the inspection. And so far, the application was turned in on the 12th, and as of the date that I checked, it was 10 days. And so as of today, I think it's been I think the 22nd made 10 days. So let's see, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th. So it's been 15 days so far. So I have another 15 to 20 days pretty much to like keep booking hotels and stuff like that. And so I don't know, I just wanted to see if I could just, like I said, share the testimony for the reason why I created the GoFundMe. I'm also going to share a couple of other links. One of the things that's been extremely helpful through this time was I found a website called super.com. One of the perks that I love about them, so they offer, even if you don't become like a member, you get these like perks, these discounts and stuff like that. But I decided to become a member because I knew that I was going to be booking hotels for at least the first 30 days. I wasn't aware that I would be doing it for another 30 to 40 days. But anyway, I was able to get like $38 off like last week's room and stuff like that. So what I am gonna do, I think they gave me a link, and I think if I share my link, that I think I get like some kind of rewards or something like that that I can put towards booking my next room. And so I'm trying to book my rooms week by week. It's actually been a little bit difficult throughout this time. Some of the places I've been in, I book like 3 days, and then I will have to go to another one and then book like 5 days. And some places I've only been able to book like 2 days because of how my money is coming in and out. It's like soon as I get it, it's out of my hands. So I just need a little bit of help. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. So super.com, I'm gonna put like probably either the logo or something up, and then I'm gonna put the code for that in there. So I'm hoping that with the super.com, that if anybody use my code, I hope that it, like, they give me some kind of cash back, which is another thing that I like too. So far, since I've been booking so many hotels, I've racked up about $125 more in cash back that I'm going to be able to use towards my card, towards my hotels. The only thing is, I think it takes like a month or something before you're able to like receive like the cash back on the money that you spend or something like that. But either way, it has been coming in handy. Not only do I get the cash backs and a couple of perks, if you play a couple of games, you get like some points. They got like this location thing where if you pass like certain stores, you get like some coins or whatever, which has come through handy. It's only $1.50, but when I tell you every little dollar count right now, I've been making it happen. So, and another thing I like about the super.com app is, a lot of the rooms that I've been booking, I've been getting up to 30 to 50% off. So it's really been coming through clutch for me. So I'm definitely gonna leave like the logo. I'm gonna put up like the logo, or I'm definitely gonna put up my referral code, and I hope that if anyone uses the referral code, I just hope that it gives me some kind of points or whatever, so that I could be able to get like some discounts on some hotel rooms. The other way that you could give is you could either purchase some of the digital products that I have. I have an ebook that I wrote called How I Learned to Pray. It's really just a reflection of some childhood experiences that I had that is in correlation with what I've learned with reading and studying the Bible, and how I was able to connect moments where God was like there and like doing stuff in my life. It's $0. It's like a pick your price. I have a pick your price deal for most of my digital products. It was something that was only supposed to last a week, but I actually think I'm gonna keep it. I have a couple of other digital products that are also a part of the pick your price deal. I have some affirmation cards that you can print out and cut them out or whatever, because they are sized for like postcard. I also have a ebook that I wrote called Learning How to Build Credit While Living on Section 8, which is a bit of my testimony on kind of some of the struggle that I dealt with as far as like not really knowing how to utilize credit, but like some of the challenges that I face with like learning it. And there are some things that I learned and some insight that I've gained from my experience that is also in the book. And then there's also a companion workbook that I made to go along with it, for anyone who would like to utilize some of the tips that are given in that book. What else? I have my Cash App, which I will leave in the description, and then I will also leave either a link or I'll put up like an image or something of the GoFundMe. So I just wanted to share that. There's some more of my testimony that I will be sharing, because this part of my story that I'm sharing here is literally just like it's a small section to the overall arching story. And I don't know, I feel like it's my time to share my story, and I really feel like this situation here is pushing it out of me. And so I want to thank you if you made it this far in the video. I want to thank you for listening, and if you choose to help me out in this tough time, I want to say I thank you as well. And you know, may God bless your seeds, may God bless your giving, and until next time.